What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis here, your coach of the Helsinki Dragons, and I'm here for my UBL D-League Season 1 Week 2 battle versus Ashenmoor, and his team beat the Appalachian Thunder. I think I pronounced those right, if not, so be it. English is not my first language, and it's not the easiest team name out there to really pronounce out loud, but in any case, as you can tell from the title who we are going up against, and both of us are sitting at 1-0 so far. So we have the ideal start going into this season after the week 1 battles itself, and now we have to see which one of us can keep up the winning or start off a potential winning streak going forward here and really try to put ourselves in a good position regards to a potential playoff race until the regular season has been done. So his roster consists, what you can see right below my screen, for my facecam screen that is, which is Mega Kangaskhan without Seismic Toss, Chirachi, Tapofini, Salamence, which is one of his sea captains, Seraora, Crobat, Kurem, Fortress, Crafty, Mismagius, which is his second and final sea captain, and Master running out his roster. My team you can see on the right bottom screen, and my sea captains are Weezing, which is the most recent new addition that I got from free agency over Licky Licky. And then Landorus-Therian is my second sea captain as well. So this is the matchup that we have in hand. A very tough matchup in a sense that he has one of those very overall well balanced drafts for the most part, that if you make a shopping list, let's call it a shopping list for a well textbook balanced draft for any kind of draft league, especially in a tier system draft. This is basically how it will look for the most part. Like, he has a lot of good things going for it in a sense that he has good amount of hazard control, he has good speed tiers, he has actually pretty decent priority options. He has a very strong core in Tapofini, Chirachi and Salamence for that. Jaggerfairy still core that most people always go after immediately throughout the drafts. And he has a lot of versatility and bulk within all of his mons basically. Either they are very versatile and bulky, or they are just very bulky, or they are just very versatile and hard to really predict what they can do. So there are a lot of good things going for it in its roster. There were a couple of things that I do want to take advantage of in couple of one typing which I feel like he's kind of missing, and I try to take advantage of it, which is a grass type. And the fact that he doesn't have a grounded poison type was also something that I'm kind of hopeful that I can take advantage of. Even the fact that he has a couple of mons that don't get affected by toxic spikes naturally, either being flying types or they are part steel type, or that he also has misty terrain. But outside of that, I can potentially take advantage of that and build a very different team that I used in week 1. In week 1 I utilized a very powerful bulky offense team, very straightforward what it did, so there weren't like any surprise factors per se. Maybe Rotom Heat was something that people may not see coming too often, but for the most part it was very straightforward, but it was very efficient what it does, and I could have taken that route here as well. I potentially done well with it, but I want to keep things fresh for myself with my team building, and I want to make sure that my future opponents, they are watching my battles, watching these games. I won't be always revealing like a same team concept every single week, and people start seeing right from the start that okay, this is kind of the style of build that this person happens to like to build with his roster, and this is how he likes to utilize them. No, we are gonna be mixing things up with a not necessarily a balanced build, definitely not bulky offense road, so I guess you could call it in a way as a middle finger balance. Let's call it that way. Mr. English is gonna kind of showcase on the screen that how does it actually feel like for my opponent, hopefully if things go right, to really deal with this team itself. So that's kind of the team concept that I wanted to go with, which I would call the middle finger balance, in a sense that it won't be having the most reliable recovery, so you cannot call it semi-stall, but it doesn't have necessarily like a typical wall breaker on it. And I have a little bit of different ways how I'm gonna weaken down my opponent each week draft, and then I have a couple of winning conditions in the back, one being one very fast one, and the other one being a little bit different kind of wall breaker that you would expect out of it. But now let's go and see that what 6 mods that I decide to bring and what sets they are going to be. And the first mod that I'm gonna be bringing for this game is gonna be the most recent addition to our squad, making immediately its debut. Disco Balls, the Weezing, is here with a Rocky helmet as its item, basically fully physically defensive with Sludge Bomb, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic Spikes and Pain Split. So very standard Weezing set, which I'm hopefully be able to utilize in a sense that he doesn't have that grounded poison type, and once the Misty Terrain is being worn off, or even if Tapu Fini happens to come in and try to set up the terrain, I can still get that Tapu Fini affected by the Toxic Spikes before the Misty Terrain would stop keeping the mons safe from those. And once the Misty Terrain is off, and hopefully with the team how I basically decided with a little bit of shuffling, and once the terrain wears off, all the mons that are grounded and are not steel types will get affected by this, and that extra 12% of each turn can really help me out throughout this game. And Weezing can really, with the Rocky helmet, helps to be a soft check to a couple of his physical attackers like the Mega Kangaskhan. Doesn't wanna like to take this thing on as long as the Rocky helmet is intact. And this is also a very decent soft check to Scrafty, which can be a little bit annoying to my roster, being a dark and fighting type access to moves like Ice Punch and Poison Jab. So that one on paper looked a little bit annoying, and hopefully Weezing can help with that. And overall just be able to spread out some statuses with the Toxic Spikes, and Will-O-Wisp being the things that doesn't get affected by poison it itself too. So I can burn things like Jirachi on the switch, I can burn the Crobat if it doesn't have taunt, I can burn the Salamence if it tries to set up on me. All those things. Hopefully Weezing can be a very solid member right from the start on its debut. And the second mod that I'm gonna be bringing into this matchup will be my Landorus-Therian with the Ground DMC, but it's not the most typical Landorus-Therian with the C move, because we are going all special with this Landorus-Therian's moveset with Modest Nature, and we are running Earth Power, Grass Knot for the Mudsdale, Hidden Power Ice for the Salamence, and Psychic for the Crobat. So we are using this thing as a wall breaker set, but not on the physical side. We're using its relatively decent special attack stat of 105, and try to take advantage of the fact that special Landorus-Therian can actually hit his roster overall, barring Tapu Fini, a lot more harder than it would be with a typical physical set. And with him having 2 potential Intimidators on his roster, and having something like Mudsdale with stamina as its ability, special Landorus-Therian can actually do a lot more work versus potentially those mons if we have to go up against them in this game. And this is gonna be like my go-to wall breaker to kind of be a surprise factor and be very efficient in that role itself. And the third member of our team, another mod which is gonna make its debut this season, is gonna be Charbel, the Bronzong, with a special defensive variant with Careful Nature, running Zen Headbutt, Iron Head, Earthquake and Stealth Rocks. And this thing is here primarily to check potential Kyurem to be brought, but naturally it can check a lot of different things, and providing us a very solid special defensive pivot and some hazard with Stealth Rocks, since my team is gonna be very hazard stacking heavy with Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rocks being up on his side of the field, and hopefully be able to prevent him potentially defogging. If he's not bringing defog itself, hopefully the hazards will always be there to stay. As soon as possible I get them up, and Bronzong can be just a solid member on the team and check a Kyurem and then potentially a Crobat depending on its set. So very standard Bronzong set. Hopefully it's gonna do well for us on its own debut itself too in week 2. And the fourth member of our team this week will be Bob, our Alolan Muk, coming yet again like Landorus-Therian from the week 1 appearance where he did so well for us. And this time around we are running a Gluttony Alolan Muk with Figgy Berry, mixed defensive with Impulse Nature, running basically dual stabs with Knockoff, Poison Jab, Pursuit and Recycle. And this thing is here providing us a very good soft check to a lot of his things, including Jirachi, which hopefully doesn't flinch us down to death, because I do expect considering the matchup Jirachi to be physical attacking set, and as long as we don't get Body Slam paralyzed on the first attempt from his behalf and then be Ironhead to death, Alola Mug Bob hopefully can take care of that annoyance from his point of sight from the field and make our time a lot easier once the Jirachi is gone. So Alola Mug hopefully can put a lot of work this time around as well. And again, like I said about the Jirachi, that is the main focus that I try to utilize this versus. But because of our mixed bulk, this thing can soft check so many things on his team, barring this Crafty that I don't want to stay in on and the Monster itself. But barring that, it can take a lot of things on 1v1 quite well with this set. And the 5th member of our team and another Mon making its first appearance for this season in the Helsinki Hydreigons is gonna be Frosted, our Whimsicott. Yeah, I'm calling this Mon after Frosted for a few reasons, mainly because it's Part Grass type and she leaves green, so that makes sense. And regular Whimsicott actually has like a blondish hair and she's also blonde, so I figured I don't have any other nicknames to give a Whimsicott right from the get-go, so I might as well give a shout out to her with her support, what she has given to me throughout this season already and before I was selected. So Whimsicott, Frosted is gonna be here really taking advantage of the fact that our opponent doesn't have a grass type, so we are running Moonblast, Lead Seed, Protect and Substitute with a Prankster set. So this thing is hopefully the primary mode that I can really utilize the fact that I will be setting up Stealth Rocks and Toxic Spikes to my opponent's side of the field. As long as he doesn't happen to bring Defog, which there's a fair chance he might, but off the chance he doesn't feel like Stealth Rocks hurt him from the team review and he decides that he's gonna prioritize having Stealth Rocks on my side of the field, considering that I have potentially Korean Black and Rotom Heat. If that's the approach he takes and doesn't prioritize having Defog, hopefully with me getting my own hazards up and start shuffling his team around with Lead Seed, Protect and Substitutes, I can really take advantage of the fact that he doesn't have the grass type and really wear him down a lot quicker than he would expect. The only issues is that the Crobat with potential Infiltrator, even though I expected to have Inner Focus versus a T with Mega Lopunny, but just in case, I'm not gonna be risking it. With Infiltrator, I have to always swap out even behind a Substitute. And versus Jirachi, I can potentially even beat that in 1v1 if it doesn't have Wish and doesn't have any way of form recovering its own health if I'm behind a Substitute and can get off a Lead Seed. The only Mon on his roster entirely that can avoid being Lead Seeded is his Dark type because of the Prankster nerf in Generation 7, but his Crafty doesn't want to stay in and switching on a Whimsicott which has a Moonblast and it's a quad effective, and even if it's a max PDF and Assault Vest, I'm still two-shotting it. So really have high hopes for our Frosted. Hopefully she will connect her Lead Seeds and doesn't carry out her terrible luck when it comes to Mons in this week when we are having it as our Whimsicott. Before I talk about my final member of the team, I do want to mention that the Whimsicott is max HP, calm nature and mixed defensive as it's spread. But now let's talk about the final Mon of the team, Mega Lopunny. Of course she has to come into this game as our final member of the team, and she's gonna be running only dual stabs with Fake Out, Drain Punch, Frustration and Quick Attack. Dual priority just in case for the Zeraora if I need to be able to pick it off as it's been weakened throughout the hazards or any potential prior damage I'm able to deal on it. And providing us that fast revenge carrier that I feel like I need to bring, especially to have a stab super effective mode to deal with the Mega Kangaskhan once it's being weakened down. I chose to go with the Drain Punch over something like High Jump Kick just in case if he happens to run Protect off any of his mons, and also be able to gain my health back if I have to take a Draco Meteor from a Choice Scarf Kyurem from full. I can gain most of the HP back and blow it back after Stealth Rock damage on the Kyurem itself too. So that is gonna be the team of 6 that I'm gonna be bringing. Hopefully it's gonna work out as this middle finger balance that I like to call it as its style of the build. Hopefully we can go 2-0 going to this or after this game itself and keep up our winning streak going. Good luck to Ashenmoor going to this matchup itself. It's gonna be a very rough battle considering how good of a draft he has in his position and how it matches up versus us. But I'm very hopeful, very nervous how it's gonna pan out, because it's different kind of team that I normally would like to maybe use with my own draft. But we have to see how it's gonna work out, and let's go see how the battle actually went. Hell hi Dragon! And here we are with the battle replay, but before we go into that, few shoutouts that I quickly want to mention. Thank you to SlackOut with the graphics yet again. I really do appreciate it, buddy, the work you put in. Thank you to Frosted, who gave me several mocks yet again like last week. I really appreciate the time you find for me to be able to make sure I feel comfortable with the team itself, and even though I put you a lot through, considering the type of team I'm running, and it was definitely for sure annoying for you to deal with. Thank you for your patience regardless in finding that time. Thank you also to Burn, who also gave me one mock battle after I have mine with Frosted, just to make sure I'm 100% sure about one specific set that I'm bringing into this game, that it turns out to be what it is right now. And also lastly but not least, I want to also give a huge thank you to Blazin Squid, who is also one of the coaches in this league, for recording my game itself and helped me to provide this video in the first place, because otherwise I could not be able to provide any kind of content regards to this league if I don't have someone helping me out to help to get the replay showing up in my videos. So going to this matchup, my opponent Ashenmoor has decided to bring Zeraora, Tapu Fini, Chiratsi, Crobat, Mega Kangaskhan and Scrafty. No surprises there in that sense, that mons don't make sense to be brought versus me. I definitely see the merits for all of them to come. To me, the biggest things that I really expected to be brought were Tapu Fini, Chiratsi and Zeraora. From there, he can mix things up, and he definitely had a lot of good options. But regardless also about their sets, I still need to be scouting on. I had few things that I thought about his certain mons that they should be carrying this kind of coverage or a move in general. And when it comes to especially Chiratsi itself, I really emphasize the fact that I think it should be physically offensive variant versus my team when I have a Alola card. Especially variant basically loses to Pursuit Trap or Alola 1v1, and there's literally nothing he can do about it, honestly, in that sense. So that was the kind of the feel going into this game. He has so many versatile mons that I need to scout out what they are and act accordingly once I know a little bit more about them. But now, jumping to replay, I'm gonna be leading off with my Weezing. And the idea with leading with Weezing is just to make sure I have the most comfortable mon in the field to lead off with and have my proper response to it. Not necessarily having offensively like in week 1, but I was okay with this kind of approach this time around going to this game. So my opponent decides to lead up with Zeraora as I lead up with my Weezing. And we see the air balloon, so this kind of shows that he is more orientated to make sure to have proper responses to Landorus-Therian so it doesn't get out of hand, because on paper, with the 6 mons he has, I can definitely see a Dual Dance Landorus-Therian or just Sword Dance Landorus-Therian putting a lot of work to him and break his team down if it's used properly. So definitely can see the merits of having Air Balloon on one of your mons at very least. And here I just went to the Whimsicott expecting an electric type move like Volt Switch or Plasma Fist coming into my way, more so about Volt Switch because I think he should be respecting me to have Will-O-Wisp. Even if he has Tapu Fini, I think you should always go for those kind of moves if your mon gets heavily crippled by it. So anyways, I went into Whimsicott and I get off a free lead seed on the Crobat. I'm basically back at full after he actually revealed to have Fake Out on his Zeraora. And now he goes into his Mega Kangaskhan. I was like, okay, this was sort of me playing around in front of Crobat, being lead seated in front of my Whimsicott and taking a Prepare quite well with my physically defensive Rocky Helmet Weezing and wear himself down while being able to keep myself relatively healthy. But he went to his Mega Kangaskhan, this is perfectly fine for me. Here I emphasize the fact that I'm still expecting the Chiratsi having to be physically oriented versus me. So I figured that if he doesn't worry about the Will-O-Wisp, I might as well go for it right now, since I haven't revealed for it and cast the Chiratsi on the switch. But he went for the Protect first, and then swapped his Chiratsi in, and this should have set a little bit of alarms on me, and I'm paused it for a little bit a little bit here why this set alarms to me, that why he made this kind of play. Again, I'm expecting this to be physically oriented, and I already explained it earlier why I believe in this. So the fact that he was willing to let Jirachi come in on a potential Will-O-Wisp, which I already shown to go for versus a Mega Kangaskhan with my Weezing, that should have set the alarm on me that this might not be the kind of Jirachi that I should be expecting him to run versus me for good reasons. And what I mean by is that there's a now better chance that this is specially attacking variant, but either way, I'm going to make my play after I went for the Toxic Spikes, actually expecting him to go into top of Ini and something like that to try to get the Misty Terrain up and then gone into the Jirachi, while still thinking that it's the physically attacking variant, and then be not worry about the Will-O-Wisp at all getting connected on it. So I went for the Toxic Spikes as a good middle ground play. And here I'm gonna be swapping into my Bronzong, expecting this still to be the physical attacking orientated, and going for a Body Slam, expecting my Alola Mach to come in, and then fishing for the 60% chance to paralyze me, which means that Jirachi has a lot easier time to beat Alola Mach than it would have without it. So I'm gonna be swapping into my Bronzong, and the reason why I stopped this is that I'm getting heavily surprised, not because Jirachi can be special. I definitely know by experience of using Jirachi and faced it multiple times that it has the move pool go both ways and be efficient by it. I just didn't expect it made any sense versus me to be special. So I was surprised first. Then I made a over prediction. Hindsight, you can call it over prediction, and I won't necessarily blame you for that, because honestly part of me tells me that to myself that it was over prediction. But the way I saw him playing here was that he would be, as you saw me going for the Stealth Rocks, and I explain why. The play what I expected my opponent to make here was that once he revealed to me that he is specially orientated, he should start respect me to make a play into a Alola Mach and not allow it to come in for free and make a hard swap, or potentially go for the U-turn if he has it for a momentum move, or go for the Flash Cannon so he can do very least as much as possible to Alola Mach. But I think the Flash Cannon play is the one which I would agree the least upon. If you happen to stay in with Jirachi, either you should U-turn or you should hard swap out if you don't have it. And what he should be swapping into would have been Scrafty, cause that covers the play of me happen to stay in for whatever reason as I do. From his point of view, I'm trying to explain this. So it covers that, and it covers the fact that if I would have gone into Alola Mach, he can go into Scrafty, especially if he has Intimidate. I cannot touch it, and he forces me out with a knockoff, which he doesn't really have a too much drawback, cause anything barring my Mega Evolution will be knocked off, or my Landorus-Therian per se, but he's getting important information and dealing a general chip damage to me, and just overall I think that would have been a lot better play from his behalf. But as you can tell the way I paused it, that's obviously not the way it's gonna turn out, and saw me going for the Stealth Rocks and taking the second consistent Shadow Ball, which is going to hurt me in the long run, cause this is a potential answer to his Crobat. And while his Kyurem didn't show up what was the primary reason to have Bronzong as especially defensive and be brought into first place, to provide Stealth Rocks and then switching to that thing, since I don't have the greatest record versus Kyurem, to be honest, how it usually kinda hates on me. So in that sense I was like, okay, well I'm gonna stay in, go for the rocks, hopefully he doesn't have Defog. And now you saw the turn that I went to the Alola Mach on his third consistent Shadow Ball and took nothing out of it, and I popped its Air Balloon, which it also happened to carry for my Landorus-Therian, which I do understand him having Air Balloon, considering how weak he is to Landorus-Therian with the 6 he brought. And I was able to deal 50%, I was like, okay, I'll take that. But to my unfortunately for me, he did bring his Crobat into the sense that I kinda expect him to have Defog, but I still wanted to stay in first to get rid of his item, get a little bit of intel, is he still offensive or defensive Crobat, but based on how much I did to it, based on his item, he's definitely more utility Crobat than offensive, which is good and not bad thing. Like in general, Crobat is gonna be annoying, so I don't know which one would have been better for me, that which one it was. I was hoping that him not to be default and backing on the fact that I would bring more mons weak to rocks, which he would feel pressured by, and then he would prefer not having stealth rocks up in the field and not care about stealth rocks on his side of the field, but that wasn't the case obviously. So things didn't go my way. I went to the Landorus-Therian to force the Crobat out, and then I made a double into my Weezing just in case if he tries to bait me go for the rock type move, and then he gets an intimidate off and takes nothing, and he can scout for a potential C move as well and burn it out that way. But that wasn't the case, as I went into Weezing to expect that to happen. He went to his Tapu Fini, which I don't blame him for. It's a fair enough play. He can take the hit and pressure me back immediately being a water type, and he went for the Hydro Pump versus the Weezing in front of him, and I made my switching into my Whimsicott, taking it well, even though that reveals to be more so offensive Fini. So now, based on my own draft versus his own, I thought that okay, that's an offensive Fini, but I still expect it to be max HP. I don't think there's a speed tier that he should hit with his Tapu Fini to run it more offensive, cause my fire type outspeeds it by 1 point naturally, and it will always have super effective stab to hit it, so I don't think there was any good reasoning in my eyes to see it being like fully offensive. I think it's bulky, but it's definitely also offensive. Either ways, we are into the point that after I was able to lead seed the Kangaskhan, which came in on my Whimsicott, I got the lead seed off, which I was really okay with, because this gave me even more free switching to my Weezing, and you saw basically him predicting me to go into Bronzong, expecting a normal type move when went for the Crunch, but it was better for me because I take even less from that with my Weezing, got all the residual damage, and now I went for the Toxic Spikes. Will-O-Wisp was never my play because the terrain still had one turn, so whatever came in on them I wasn't able to affect by them, and Kangaskhan wasn't affected by them. So I thought that it's better for me to stay in, make sure if he stays in I have to check in front of it and take my time in that. And here I was expecting him actually gone into his Shiratsi versus my Weezing, but that really didn't work out for me in that sense that he actually went to his Crobat, and that's a little bit unfortunate because now he's gonna find his turn to default yet again. So I'm not getting anywhere yet with my Toxic Spikes, but I'm really stubborn about them that eventually they will pan out for me like I have envisioned in my team build. And now I'm gonna make a second time in a row that versus the Crobat with my Landorus-Therian. The way I brought it in, I want to bait him out, and now I went into the Alola-Muk, seeing that he wanted to go into Tapu Fini first, and now my Muk would have been able to deal with it 1v1, but now he was willing to sack the Chiratsi, so I was like, well, this is alright for me, I'm gonna keep going for Pursuit. I could have gone for the knockoff, just immediately kill this thing, I only give him a 1 turn, but I was actually okay giving him 2 turns and just make sure this is here to stay and die. Because if he hits me, you're gonna see that the berry will pop up now. Expecting him to have Flash Cannon honestly, because I have Kyurem Black since he is special. I knew that it should be put me in a range of the berry. And now that I have eaten my berry, I can recycle it back even if I swap out. But he cannot knock me off from it until I actually recycle it back. So this was a play that I was okay to do. So I don't consider the Pursuit play necessarily like a misplay or over prediction, because I knew no matter what happens, I'm still relatively okay what happens. So regardless, he goes into his Crafty. I'm gonna immediately react to this, go into my Weezing. I don't know what this thing is. Off the chance he tries to go for a fighting type move and hit what is in front of it, I'm gonna have the Weezing right in the back, but he makes the good play, tries to use that moment as a setup, and I immediately reacted this. I was like, okay, I'm not getting you out of hand here. If you happen to have Lumberry, cause you don't have Shed Skin, I'm gonna 2 times in a row burn it if necessary, or if I happen to miss. Always burning this thing as an end result was my priority, and thankfully he wasn't Lumberry and I connect the first one. So I was relatively confident that I'm gonna go for the Toxic Spikes here. I could have gone for the Pain Split to make sure that I was a little bit healthier, And that would have been relatively fair play to say that I could have done, and maybe it would have been better in the long run. But I wanted to emphasize the fact that toxic spikes are really money here. And I feel like he may not want to defog anymore, cause he got his rocks up and he went for them for a reason in my eyes when I was looking at this battle, how it was going along. And now, if I see this crop, by the way, this was great double from his behalf. He saw that once his Tapu Fini was in the field, he knew that I'm gonna make this play into Whimsicott. So he made a great double into his Crobat, immediately pressure me back out. But now we have to see that is he any more pressured by going for defog or not? Or what is he going to do? And now he reveals his third move being Taunt, which tells me that it's probably gonna be Brave Bird, because otherwise I don't understand why Crobat would come without having its Flying Stab as a low panic counter. So basically, without seeing Brave Bird yet, I expect that to be the case. Or maybe Air Slash. One of the two obviously has a flying type stab to hit what it's meant to check. And with him going for the taunt, it worked out for him because I brought my Bronzong in. It didn't give me the turn to go for the rocks that I was hoping for to get, because I didn't know it had taunt yet. And he brought his Kangaskhan in as I tried to go for the Zen Head, but at the time I didn't think it's going to matter. But I'm gonna explain at what point it's gonna actually matter. But until we cross that bridge, I'll leave it at that. I had to sack my Bronzong here because I felt like it's not going to have its chance to really get Stealth Rocks anymore. Unless I was relatively enough health to take a Hydron Pump from Fini or some sort of hit from Zeraora, which is not Krokov. Otherwise I did not have a turn anymore to get up my Stealth Rock. So I figured that, you know what, let's let it go down from here. The other option would have gone into Weezing, but I decided at that point, because of these Stealth Rocks not able to get up anymore, that I'll keep the Weezing over the Bronzong. I could have made a different choice maybe in a hindsight, but that's what I ended up doing. And he was able to finish me off, and after he went for the Protect, etc., as you saw, I was just really adamant about, pun intended, my low panic being adamant nature, about clicking Frustration, cause it looked to me that that should be a 2-shot on this Crafty, but it doesn't end up being, which was a little bit annoying. But thankfully he was burned, so even if he went for the fighting type move, I don't think he could not ever kill me unless he got a crit. And if he got a crit, that would have been annoying. That would have been annoying, but I didn't make the swap into Weezing to cover it 100%. I wanted to be aggressive on that turn and just kill it off, because if I was able to keep my low pony in and just finish that thing off without Weezing having to take any chip damage, or getting frozen by the Ice Punch, anything like that would have been a lot better, and just be able to finish off that Scrafty, which to me it looked like a 2-shot. I don't know about you guys, but to me the HP ball looked to me that it should have gone with 2 Frustrations, and I didn't click the Drain Punch there because I expected to beat Chobo Berry, because it didn't show to have any other item. That was the only item that I expected to be at that point. Either way, we are at the point that he brought his Crobat, and now I have to unfortunately pick a sack, and it ends up being Weezing at this point of time. So this is kind of where the Bronzong, how I was able to utilize it or not able to utilize it to a full extent, kind of mattered in the long run. Partially because of my misplay, letting it go too early potentially, or the fact that I let it to take a secondary Shadow Ball from the Jirachi once it revealed to be special, but we already went through why those things happen. So here comes a huge play that he actually stays in with his Crobat, and I'm gonna stop it here for a little bit to explain why this is a huge play, because of the obvious fact that I was able to kill that thing off, which was huge on itself. But the reason why I think it was relatively okay to expect my opponent to stay in and go for the taunt, and why I pulled the trigger finally to click offensive move or any move in general with my Landorus-Therian was there, is that I started to have a feeling that he cannot allow me to get up a potential Sword Dance on my Landorus-Therian. Because if I would have gone for a Sword Dance, and if he doesn't have the speed investment on top of Fini to outspeed me, like Adamant Nature or something like that, and if Kangaskhan is not outspeeding me and doesn't have Ice Punch, I'm basically claiming 1 kill or even 2 kills at this point of time. The only way he could revenge kill me is by Tapu Fini living a +2 Earthquake and me burning my C move already, or expecting me not to click it for whatever reason, or me being worn down by the point that Hidden Power Ice from Zeraora would have picked me off. So I felt like he was very pressured to make sure to deter me attempt to set up on it, and expect him to make a choke there. So that was kind of like where I revealed my trump card, which is the special Landorus-Therian, and we were able to take that thing out with Psyche, which was so huge. This takes so much pressure out of my shoulders, because I didn't have a proper defensive response to it necessarily naturally. Left on the board what I have in my team, because everything else have died that could take it on relatively well. And that takes basically his only really good response to my Whimsicott as well. And also Mega Lopunny is a lot more free from this point. Now I only need to weaken the things down, and Mega Lopunny immediately can win the game for me. So regardless of that, he went to his Zeraora, and I was expecting him to have the Hidden Power Ice and gone from there and forced to go in for it. As he reveals Knockoff on there and went for it in front of Landorus-Therian, so I was kind of like, not sure why, but he did it anyway. So it was very odd play from his behalf. I understand he did have the air balloon, so it was a free hit for him over anything else, but it was very odd for me that he did that play. This is where the Zen headbutt miss earlier mattered, because he swapped into my Poison Jab from my Alola Mach, and I don't care how weak Bronzong is without invested on physical side. It still has 89 base attack stat, and it should have done that much to that Mega Kangaskhan no matter what kind of bulk it had. So me missing that gave him an opportunity to get a huge hit on my Alola Mach, and at this point of time I was forced to stay in and take my chances and went for the recycle, hoping that he didn't have the Earthquake, or if he has Body Slam he didn't get the Paralyzation, which was 60% for him because he gets the 2 attacks based on his ability. Thankfully for me, RNG was a little bit on my side on that matter finally in this game, but we'll see how long that lasts. But we are gonna be going for the Figgy Berry recycle yet again as this Tapu Fini comes in, and this is where the Toxic spikes some money, because even if the terrain goes up, that Fini will get poisoned by it as long as the terrain is not up as it comes in. So now that Fini is on a timer, and it's gonna be taking 12% every single time, and that is important. That is very important for the late game. Here I expect him to be forced to be swapped out, so I go for the Poison Jab expecting this little guy to come in, and here I was hoping to get the poison because the air balloon was intact. I had a chance to get the poison like normally Poison Jab does, because he wasn't affected on that until it was popped, and that would only happen on the turn after. So what that would have meant that I could have just stayed and clicked recycle endlessly, and Bob would have just sat here there and secure us the 4-0 win. But because it didn't happen, I figured that okay, I'm gonna see that what he goes for, as he went for the fake out actually, and after he went for that move I was like okay, instead of stay in, I'm gonna keep my Alola Mach alive in the range that it's at, because it's going to be able to live 100% sure a Hydron Pump after Stealth Rocks unless it's a crit. So that's already another check to me for the Tapu Fini, which is now the only one remaining after the Zeraora is being dealt with. Now I was sitting in a position, do I want to take the 3-0 win quickly, or do I try to go for the 4-0? Either way, I should have this in the bag as long as I keep Alola Mach and Lopunny alive and don't choke on with them and swap them in on this Tapu Fini. So I decided that, you know what, we're here now and I might as well, because it's week 2 only, we don't know what kind of playoff race we have in hand and how important differential might become. I'm gonna try to go for the 4-0 win, because I legit have a chance here if I land the lead seed. Because if this Tapu Fini is the max HP spread, based on how lead seed actually works, every single mon, including my Whimsicott, should be healing 22 HP to their selves from that lead seed. And lead seed itself, combined the poison, should be dealing 24% of health, which is... sorry. Okay, I think I'm gonna edit that part out, because I was starting to cough. so I don't want to call it on the actual video right next to the mic. Anyways, where I was going with this is that because it's been taking 2 rounds of poison, that thing is already in 76% of health, if my math is correct. So with that, plus the upcoming lead seed, which I can go for after I go this protect, he's gonna be taking 24% of health. Which means that after 3 turns, he's left in 4%. Any of my mons pick it up at 4%, and my Whimsicott, if it gets that lead seed recovery, I'm pretty sure it would have been able to keep living until to the point that it can finish that thing off with a Moonblast if necessary. Even how many like special attack drops he gets towards me. As long as I land the lead seed and he doesn't crit me with those Moonblast, we should be having 4-0 win here back-to-back weeks. But because I took so much time, it's pretty obvious that I'm gonna be missing this lead seed. So whether one, this is just the fact that how terrible luck I know Frosted has in general, especially in Mons, and especially considering landing 90% of moves. Maybe this just is a sign that, well, this is what happens when you name one of the Mons after her. Or this could be just her payback towards me, in like a small payback in a sense that I put so much her through with our mock battles, cause it's safe to assume that she got at some point a little bit annoyed by my team based on how I build it. So maybe this was like some weird way, her way to pay back on that and be like, haha, you're not getting a 4-0 win, you're gonna be getting only 3-0 win unless you choke this one away, and that's on you. So that's kind of what happens here, and this is basically me. I'm not gonna explain every single turn from here. Basically what happens here is that I try my best to get the 4-0 win, shuffle around with my team, eventually getting to the point that I decide to sack my Landorus-Therian to a Moonblast, and I chose to sack the Landorus-Therian to the Moonblast because I was like, you know what, Bob has done way too well this time around, I don't want to sack it for nothing. It did phenomenal job, and Landorus-Therian being the captain, being one of the C captains, I figured like he's gonna take one for the team. We are gonna get the 4-0 win. I wasn't gonna let Whimsicott go down. I was like, I'm not gonna be too upset about it and be that salty towards the Mon itself. Cause in the end I did miss a couple of other Mons with like Bronzo missing Zen Headbutt, and me getting poisoned by the low pony from Scafty was also a little bit on, so there was a little bit of RNC going against me, but thankfully we were able to play towards the point that we secured the win. And I knew like all the time that Mega Lopunny will finish this one off. Even when I swapped the Alola Mach in, I knew that the fact that Lopunny finished this thing off. Like Fake Out does like Fake Out plus Frustration do, what did I call it? I think it was like around 49% combined that they will do. So as long as the poison will be racked up to the point that he was that amount of range, I had the game in the bag, so I never choked this one away. It was just a matter of trying to get that 4-0 win, but it never was meant to be, obviously, how the things work out. But good game to Ashenmoor. The criticism that I gave to him, I think were fair. I don't want to be mean towards him, so if you're watching this video or anyone else who think I was mean towards him, that's just me criticizing from my point of view what it made sense from my behalf about his sets. When it comes to when he played, I think he played relatively well, especially the Crobat, how he played that was phenomenal. Shoutouts to you, that's where I should top my beanie off if I was wearing it at this point of time. For you, how you played it. And other than that, like besides how you played Jirachi, I don't think you really misplayed from my point of view at all. And you can make a case that I made my small misplays this time around, which I don't think I did in week 1. This time around it was a little bit more. There were some moments that I had to dance around a little bit more, and there were moments that I could have made different choices and I didn't always have the best choice in front of me to go for. But sometimes that happens, and we went up against a very strong team with a very strong draft, and sometimes just games don't end up being so easy on you. I have to fight for the win, and that's what happens here. We had to fight for the win, and I'm happy we got it. We are sitting at 2-0 and +7 Our opponent unfortunately goes back to the neutral, as you can tell from the layout. He was 1-0 and +3. Now he's gonna be 1-1 and +0, but I'm sure he's gonna bounce back relatively quickly, if not already next week, whoever he goes up against, because he has a good draft, and I know he can make a good push for the playoff run. Thank you all for watching. Until week 3 when we go up against the Flying Bird, I'll be see you guys later.